If you know my channel, you know that almost a year now, I did a video about a hypothetical Disney fighting game. And that video was probably the most viewed video on my channel. Really my first channel achievement, and I want to do something special for that. Of course, I did have to delay a few projects, but I think it was worth it. I spent basically the entire year making what I think might be the perfect hypothetical Disney fighting game. And it's pretty big. This isn't just the roster, we're going over tons of stuff. DLC, assists, a lot. So I'm going to try to go through the intro as fast as I can here, because this is going to be a long one. First thing to mention, yes, I know that some people might say that this is pretty unlikely to happen with it being Disney, all colorful and kid-friendly, but frankly, I think Smash is a kid-friendly genre enough that Disney would do it. I mean, if you've seen Disney in recent years, they're not afraid to go dark. And if they can do high-speed racing games, I think a fighting game, especially a platform fighting game, I'm pretty sure Disney can handle that. Second, who's going to be included? I know that sounds like going over the roster, but it's different. Just, you see, Disney owns a lot of movies, but they also own other franchises, like Marvel, Pixar, and, Star Wars, and there's a lot more, I know, but for the most part, those are the main that get included when it comes to other people doing videos on this. And admittedly, it kind of varies when you look at other hypothetical Disney fighting games of what they include. Some people just include Disney. Some people include Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar. Some people just do Disney and Pixar, and some people even do more. And yeah, admittedly, I couldn't really do all of those options, so I had to pick one, and I decided to go with Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and basically nothing else. I gotta admit, I did try to cram in a few more, but this game's already gonna have a lot of DLC knowing Disney, so I think it would be much better just to have this being these 4 franchises. Trust me, we're already cramming in enough. So, how is this gonna be laid out? Well, first off, Disney is getting 10 characters. It is still a Disney fighting game after all. With Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar all getting 4 characters each. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty tight with characters. But moving on, we're just gonna go straight into the Disney roster right now. This is probably the most obvious character to pick, but yeah, first option, Mickey Mouse. I know some people might say that Mickey being a fighting game wouldn't happen. I mean, it's Mickey. Seeing all the Disney characters beat up Mickey, would Disney really do that? Yes, they would. Again, Disney is not afraid to go dark with their lovable mouse, so I think in a fighting game, it would be fine. And frankly, I'm not even sure if I can just list off his moveset. There's so much that can be done with his moveset. I mean, I can't list it all off. There's way too much potential with how big a history he has. Although I will say, his final has to be Sorcerer Mickey. I know it probably won't be called Final Smash or anything like that. I guess Super probably. Either way, his Super would be easily Sorcerer Mickey. And for costumes, I can see old-timey black and white Mickey, and there's definitely other options out there, but I'm just going to stick with that for now. Now, moving on to, besides from Mickey, again, probably the most obvious pick, Elsa. Yeah, I'm mainly focused on 2 aspects when picking characters. 1, finding potential, and 2, popularity. And there are a lot of characters that had one of these aspects, but not the other. But with Elsa, she nails both. Again, being a part of Frozen, one of the biggest movies to come out in Disney's history, popularity is pretty big for her. And then there's fighting, which, considering the fact that she has powers to shoot ice, which is pretty easy to use in a fighting game, yeah, she's a pretty solid pick. Now, one thing to note that it's hard to say what exactly her moves would be, because I don't think she would have some sort of ice weapon, probably just shoot ice projectiles if anything. And yeah, one thing I will say though, her super has to be that giant snow golem she throws. I mean, that would just be cool. She doesn't have to ride on it or anything, but just a cool sound. And for costumes, maybe that one summer costume she had and that one short, or you could just have different color variants. And next on the list, we have Donald Duck. Yeah, this was where things got tough. Again, I can only really include one character per franchise, and of course, being Mickey, I can't just include Mickey. I mean, his cast of characters is so lovable, so deciding how many Mickey characters was a little tough, and I decided with 3, and the second one was Donald. And yeah, this one speaks for himself. Being Donald, of course, he would be a brawler with a lot of anger issues. And yeah, I think maybe you can tie in his super with him being a sailor. And yeah, I don't know entirely how exactly that would work. Maybe his boat would just fly into the ocean. And yeah, but still, I think Disney can work with it. Creative team in there. And then costumes, again, with his big history, there is a lot of potential. A lot. So, yeah, I think probably, if I had to guess, maybe some references to, like, Daisy or other DuckTales characters. Speaking of which, Scrooge McDuck. Okay, I know some people are saying Goofy, and I get that. But let's think about this here. Scrooge covers a lot more of a majority of franchises than Goofy. Scrooge has been in, TV shows, covering all the Disney shows, and not to mention comics, which, yeah, I know Goofy has been in TV shows and comics too, but Scrooge has had more popularity with that. And although Goofy can fight, Scrooge is a lot easier to put in a fighting game than I think Goofy would be. And although he totally DLC, and a lot of people might disagree, but I think Goofy is not necessarily as good as a pick as Scrooge McDuck might be. And yeah, there's a lot to go in here. I won't go in all his moveset, but I will say, you gotta throw in his pogo stick for one of his moves. You just gotta. And maybe his money bin can be his super. I'm not entirely sure how that would work. I guess it would just kind of pop in, or maybe a wave of money would flow in. That would be pretty cool. And for costumes, I'm not sure which one of his main costume would go with, whether it's the new DuckTales show version or the old school Scrooge McDuck costume. Either way, one of the other ones would probably be one of his alternate costumes. And next on the list, Simba. Yeah, I didn't really see Lion King characters much in these hypothetical Disney fighting game videos, which I don't entirely understand, because Lion King, it's the Lion King. It's one of Disney's highest ranking movies up there. And yeah, I think a lion can fit pretty well in a fighting game. Obviously, this would have to be, grown-up Simba and whatnot, and I think you can be pretty creative with this. It's not just gonna be claw slashing, you can maybe throw in Pumbaa for some colorful assists or something. And for a super, it's gotta be something with the part. Maybe it'll just pop out, maybe other lines will show up, but definitely something with the Pride Rock. And alternate costumes, maybe you can have one for Scar. I might not want to do that because you don't want to limit him as an actual character. Because, yeah, you definitely gotta have a DLC pack of Disney villains. That would be pretty nice. But still, you can get pretty creative. Maybe Mufasa. Moving on, though. Next, we have Baymax. Again, this guy is pretty high up there when it comes to characters who would actually probably make it on this game. And yeah, I mean, being a robot superhero, yeah, this moveset fits pretty well. With his flying fist and maybe even some assists from his other teams, you can think of a moveset pretty easily. And yeah, for super, I think heroes should come in with some sort of gadget. You could say the whole team, but I want to save that for something else. And for alternate costumes, it could just be color swaps, or maybe you can even reference the TV show we had. Although that TV show wasn't as popular as the movie, so maybe stick with something else. Next on the list, we have Mulan. Again, pretty obvious pick. She's a fighter, very popular movie. This really does just make sense. And she's made a lot of appearances lately in the Disney crossover games. Well, usually the mobile games. Still, I can definitely see mostly just being swords, but I think she can throw in some rocket cannons in there, maybe a Mushu flamethrower. And for super, definitely has to shoot a rocket at a snowy mountain where a snowy just wave of snow tsunami just comes down on the opponent. And, well, I think alternate costumes, you can have one where it's just a normal dress, then the suit costume. No idea what it's called. Moving on to the next character, we have Rapunzel. I know that might be a lot of Disney princesses, but I mean, it's Disney. Disney princesses are some of the highest ranking movies. You gotta have at least a few. And I think Rapunzel does earn a spot. I mean, with her frying pan and hair, you would have to be a little creative with the moveset, but I think that would be worth it. Definitely a fun character. And frankly, I think definitely shows good possibility in stages, but that's a whole different subject. For Super, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe something with her hair, maybe something with the TV show she had, but can go either way. And then costumes, yeah, I couldn't really think of anything here, but maybe you can have one of her taunts have her little gecko, whatever that lizard's called. Apologies if anyone was offended by that. And maybe with different costumes she has, the lizard would change colors too, because, you know, it's a chameleon. Just follow that and realize his name. Apologies. Moving on though, next character, we have the genie. Okay, I know that a lot of people are saying Aladdin, and I get that. But, let's be honest here. I think we all would want Aladdin as like DLC maybe. He's cool and all, but I mean, we all want the genie as a playable character way more than we want Aladdin. The genie has so much possibilities for a moveset. They can be wildly creative with the genie. And for Super, probably has the reference to You Never Had a Friend Like Me. It wouldn't obviously be the entire song, but maybe the last end of it. And for alternate costumes, maybe you can have one that references the villain of Aladdin, you know, with a red genie. Again, with Scar, you wouldn't want it to actually look like the main villain because you don't want to get rid of him as a character. So just make him probably red with some yellow eyes, and that'll work. Now, moving on to the next character, and the last character, probably also the most controversial character, Perry the Platypus. I know some people would say Stitch, and I love that movie, and I probably would switch it too, but I try not to be biased in thinking about it. When it comes to referencing all of Disney, not just the movies, we also probably should reference the shows, and I think Perry the Platypus does a good job at that, because frankly, Phineas and Ferb is a very iconic show, so iconic that's even coming back. And yeah, Perry does fit this role quite well, with, you know, him being a secret agent and whatnot. Being able to pull out gadgets and whatnot, and just being able to fight well, he works pretty well in this. And I could definitely see a Super maybe pulling his flying car, but I would prefer have Doofenshmirtz fire some sort of a nature of some kind, or maybe just all of them at the opponent. That would be hilarious. And for alternate costumes, maybe you can have an obscure reference with a pink Perry the Platypus that only we're true Phineas and Ferb fans would recognize, but for the most part, yeah, it can just be color swaps. Out of the way, we've done pretty much all the Disney characters. Now it's time to get into Pixar. So this is already going to be an odd start. You see, with Pixar, there are a lot of choices I could have picked. And of course, I had to pick at least one character from Toy Story, but I couldn't decide. I had to include Woody and Buzz Lightyear as two characters. I know, I probably shouldn't, but I mean, I honestly just can't decide who would be more popular. Buzz being the fan favorite and Woody being the actual main character. I mean, both these characters have a lot of fans, and both fit pretty equally well. I could definitely see a lot of gunshots and maybe him using like his lasso as movesets, maybe even calling in Bullseye or something like that. And then for Buzz, he can also use a bunch of space-themed weapons and his lasers, and maybe even do a fly as a recovery. And yeah, I just think these two both work way too well for me to put one out of the other. For Woody Super, he probably maybe be able to call in Bullseye for like a big charge. I couldn't really think much for him, but for Buzz, he would have to call in his spaceship as he would fly in the background, and then just like Samus's Super from Smash, he would just fire on the opponents. Now, moving on to the next Pixar character, we would probably have Mr. Incredible. And when I say probably, I mean absolutely. Come on, this is the most obvious pick for Pixar. I mean, he's a superhero from a very popular movie franchise. This fits way too well. Obviously, most of his moves were probably attacks, but we can use more heavy characters. And not to mention his costumes with the red and the brew, I mean, it fits way too well. For Super, maybe he can call in his family, but we don't want to put them off the roster, so perhaps calling in that giant robot from the movie. That would be interesting. I probably won't be able to control it, it'll just be random chaos, but still, I think that would be a pretty fun reference. And next, we have Sully. Yeah, this pretty obvious. With Disney crossovers, mobile or not, Sully commonly makes an appearance. It's weird, but again, Monsters Inc. is a popular franchise. And yeah, he does fit most genres, especially fighting, with him being able to claw and punch, and of course roar. You can definitely make a moveset out of him. And of course, his super would probably just be like a Mega Roar. I can't think of anything more creative than that. And again, costumes, probably just color swaps. Maybe a reference to Mike, but yeah, probably just color swaps. Now, moving on to Star Wars. Now, this is where things really get difficult. With Star Wars and Marvel having so many likable characters, I gotta say, I really was struggling with a pick. With Star Wars, there were a few obvious ones. First one, Luke. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I mean, it's Luke Skywalker, come on. It's the main character, come on. So, yeah, maybe he would actually just be another Fire Emblem, basically, with being a sword fire. But I think you could still use his Force to get a few extra, more unique moves. For his costumes, maybe you can have his old version from the new Star Wars movies. And for Super, I wasn't as sure who to give this to, because I'm going to have multiple Jedi on this list. I think Luke could just tap into the Force and just become very powerful, you know, it shows some special effects and on the screen and whatnot. And I couldn't necessarily know what it would do, but it would be somewhere like that with the Force, I'm sure of it. Next, Darth Vader. Obviously, we need more villains, and it's Darth Vader. I mean, come on, you can't get more villainy than Darth Vader. He would be basically a Ganondorf with Ike's sword. He would be very intimidating character. And yeah, a lot of his moves would be slashes, but you can probably put some lightning attacks in there too, and make it interesting. For a Super, it would have to be something kind of brutal. Again, don't make this dark, because it's still Disney, but probably something of slamming his opponent on the ground, or pulling him in for devastating attack, or just making the whole screen black and whatnot. Something like that. For costumes, maybe you can have an Anakin costume, although that might be a little too different from Vader, but still, I think it'd be worth retrying. Moving on, Yoda. I know we should probably reference other Star Wars media, but again, with DLC, you can just wait a while and just get the main staples. Yoda is definitely popular enough to get in the main 4 characters. With his moveset, it'd be a little difficult. You don't want to make him overpowered like that one fine game did. So, again, probably just sword slashes, make him somewhat fast, but not annoyingly. And for a Super, he would probably just use the Force to shoot beams of light at the opponents. It's not the most creative thing, but for Yoda it makes sense. For Ultimates, you could maybe get away with him in the prequels look, and maybe him with the modern Star Wars, or I guess not modern, but the first Star Wars line of movies. Although this Yoda would probably be more mainly related to the prequels Yoda, because the main first Star Wars movies Yoda was crazy and old, and you know, couldn't really fight at all. So I guess that's somewhat prequel representation. Nonetheless, though, we are moving on to the final character for Star Wars, and I had to pick something for the new movies. Even, of course, Disney's going to want to represent that, so what to pick? I chose Mandalorian. I know I could have gone with Rey from the movies, but those movies were a bit controversial to the fans, and I think Mandalorian's is a lot safer bet. And I've mentioned not just another lightsaber, although he does technically have a lightsaber, but he would mostly just use guns. Maybe a flamethrower, maybe some sort of whip or something like that. And I can definitely see his Super being Baby Yoda. I mean, come on, you can't not have Mandalorian, not have Baby Yoda. That's way too much missed opportunity. And then for Ultimate Costumes, you can definitely reference tons of other Mandalorian that Star Wars fans would love. And now, moving on to Marvel. Okay, this was easily the hardest to do. With so many lovable Marvel characters, having to cut all of them down to 4. Oh gosh, yeah, expect your favorite Marvel characters to not be in this. The first, probably only real solid pick for this, Spider-Man, because, I mean, come on, it's Spider-Man. If you're gonna have Marvel, you gotta have Spider-Man. And yeah, his moveset might be a little difficult with the whole web swimming thing. I think you can make it so it's not overpowered. Mainly just make it fun. Again, being Spider-Man, a lot of characters are gonna not be picked because it's Spider-Man. You know everyone's gonna pick Spider-Man if he's in this game. So fun's probably the main focus for this year. And for Super, I think I want to reference Marvel vs. Capcom, where he's fighting his opponent, and then the Green Goblin starts throwing pumpkin bombs, and he's dodging them as he's still fighting the opponent. That would be a nice reference, especially since that franchise is somewhat dead. Now, moving on here, we have Iron Man. Now, I know that a lot of characters are being cut because of Iron Man, and again, the main focus I had here was the MCU, because really, if Disney's doing this, then yeah, they're going to reference the MCU. And I wanted to reference the MCU in a more unique way, mainly referencing modern MCU, middle of the MCU, and the past of the MCU. Iron Man representing the past, the beginning in a way. And really, Iron Man's popularity does carry him here. I mean, it's Iron Man. His movie franchise kicked off the MCU. That earns him a spot on this list. And for his moveset, I can definitely see him just being a shooter character, firing projectiles. Maybe some other suits can make an appearance. And then, your super, definitely gotta be Hulkbuster. You could put Iron Man free where he pulls in all of his suits. And yeah, that would be cool. But, I mean, come on. You gotta reference the Hulkbuster. That'd be way too much fun to control. For his costumes, yeah, you can do tons of fan service here. Same thing with Spider-Man. But yeah, I can't list all of them, but I can definitely think of some like maybe War Machine or maybe Ultron reference. Not anything too realistic because you don't want to make any other characters not work. But yeah, again, you can have loads of references here. And for the next pick, Thanos. I want to reference the middle of the MCU, and I think Thanos kind of covered that pretty well. He, again, being another villain, which we definitely need, he really does cover that peak Marvel phase. I mean, his movies that he was in were some of Marvel's best, and that made his popularity skyrocket. And yeah, I think he can definitely work here. I don't think you should give him any Infinity Stones or anything like that, because that could probably be more fun as an item. But yeah, definitely give him the swords, his armor, maybe a few assists from his minions. His final can probably be him shooting his ship's blasters down on you as he gives a speech about he's inevitable or something like that. And for his costumes, maybe you can reference his old comic design in comparison to his movie design. But yeah, there's still a lot to work here. You don't want to make him too much of a heavy. Again, being Thanos, he's gonna be fun to play. Now, moving on to the last character, and I've said this a lot, but I'll say it again. The most controversial character, Wanda. Yeah, I know, no Captain America, no Thor, no Hulk, I know. There's a reason. Again, I want to represent all of the MCU, and that means the new MCU. And if, in case you haven't been aware, new MCU has been kind of suckish. And yeah, not everything's been bad. Spider-Man was pretty alright, New Guardians was alright, but if I had to include something that really showed the new MCU's potential, I think Wanda really did well at that. Her show blew up, really getting the new Phase 4 just skyrocketed in popularity. Only for next few movies and TV shows to drop that, but still, she got a lot of popularity. And I think she can work very well in moveset, be very unique. Not entirely like the Genie, but more kind of Elsa, just throwing red magic stuff on the screen. Definitely can be creative with it, and I definitely think it works. For Super, she can just probably like lose it and just destroy everything in just a giant wave. Not the most creative, but I still think it fits her character. And for costumes, you can have references to the comic, references to Vision, references to her kids. You can do a lot with this. So those are my picks for the entire roster of my hypothetical Disney fighting game. But we're still not done. I gotta talk about what I think we're all thinking about here. The new little gimmick I'm throwing in here. And again, it's not necessarily as much as a gimmick. A lot of other games have done this, but I think if any fighting game's gonna do this to the extent, it's going to be Disney. Absolutely. DLC. Yeah, I think Disney is confidently going to throw in so much DLC in this game. And I think this probably could be the main focus here. You can argue that's a little greedy, throwing in a bunch of DLC, but with Disney and their fan service, I think they can make it work. Unless, moving on to DLC, it's interesting here because, as I said, there's going to be a lot of DLC packs, so I probably won't be able to go for all of them, but there is one I thought of that'd be pretty interesting. DLC pack that is completely separate franchises. No Marvel, no Star Wars, no Disney, no Pixar. They're other franchises. They're smaller umbrellas, if you will. And I think this would be a pretty interesting DLC pack, because it would be very more unexpected. So, first for this DLC pack, Sora. Yeah, I didn't say this DLC pack was likely. And yeah, maybe there are other characters that could probably fit this slot better, but I'm putting Sora in here because, frankly, I do think he fits. Being in Smash Bros., it would probably be the easiest to put in a hypothetical platform fighter, and frankly, he is a pretty popular character that Disney can use that, you know, goes to other worlds and dimensions. He fits quite well, and again, you can just copy everything from Smash. It would be the easiest and yet simultaneously the most difficult character to play in this game, probably. Now, moving on, we have Homer Simpson. Yeah, some people might say it's a little more too appropriate, but again, this is mostly going to be more of a team game, because, you know, platform fire and whatnot, most kids aren't as good as those. So, yeah, I think Homer will be fine if he can get a Lego set. I'm definitely sure he can get into this. And, again, he has had a lot of episodes. He's part of a very big franchise, and his moveset have tons of references. I can't necessarily list them all, but I do think his super should be referenced to the intro where he almost gets run over by his wife. I know there's more Simpsons, deeper Simpsons fan would think of something probably better, and maybe there probably is, but I think that'll be fun. For his costumes, again, you can have references to his family, but you definitely gotta have reference to that clown. That would be just be do good. Now, next on the list, we have the Avatar. Yeah, this one makes a lot of sense. It's probably the most realistic out of all these. And yeah, maybe his moveset might be a little basic, with just simple bows and weaponry, but I still think you can make him a quick character. Whether it be the male or female, it really depends. It could be Wii Fit Trainer, where you can choose which one you want to go with. And yeah, I think you can have fun with costumes with this, getting pretty colorful with it. I think that'd be pretty fun. And definitely, with a super, you gotta reference the army of avatars riding those bird things. I don't remember the names, but you know what I'm talking about. They got their own ride, for crying out loud. That would be pretty cool. Next, and somehow even more unlikely, Predator. I know some people would say Alien because those are more popular, but I'm saying Predator because, frankly, I think that would be a lot easier to get into this game than Alien. I already said Simpson was kind of pushing it, but an Alien and little fun little platform fighter, yeah, that might be pushing it too much. I understand the Predator is pretty violent too, but Predator is an alien in a suit. Alien's just a slimy alien that would be much harder to hide its violence. With Predator, I think you can get away with just claws and only some of its weaponry and whatnot, and melee attacks, you know. You wouldn't have to remove its mask or anything like that. With the helmet on, it wouldn't be too frightening for any little kids. So I think Disney can work with it. Again, it is DLC, so chances are only teens will even get this character anyway. And yeah, I think it would be pretty creative. Maybe we can have a league of Predators come in for the ultimate, and again, you can have a lot of references to other Predators with the costumes. And that is probably not the last DLC they will use, but the most unique DLC Disney could do. But now we are moving on to stages. Now for stages, it's a little interesting, because I tried to even it out, but I of course had to make it more Disney stages than all others, so this will be mainly Disney stages, but with a few other stages from other franchises too. First up, an Avatar stage. I know I said the character would be DLC, but I think for the main game, an Avatar stage would be fair to include, because again, Avatar being the big movie it was, I think as a stage it would be pretty fine. I mean, the movie itself is known for looking amazing, so stages just make sense. You can be very creative, whether it be on a tree, maybe on one of the sky islands. I think you can do a lot with it. Next up, we have Andy's room. Yeah, Andy's room is pretty solid. You know, Pixar with their franchises are a lot known for their visuals, and Andy's room is pretty popular, so this is most likely going to happen. It could be on Andy's bed or on a floor with a playset. You could have a lot of toy references, if that makes sense, and I think it could be creative with it. Maybe it could be like that Nintendo stage from Smash where it changes sometimes. That would be pretty fun. And next we have pirates. And yeah, again, for not including the character, I understand that some people might be mad at that because it is a pretty proper franchise, but it hasn't necessarily been the most active recently, and we already got a lot of sword characters with Star Wars, so I figure it would be better for DLC. But as a stage, yeah, I think a stage would be pretty good, being on a pirate ship, maybe even in battle with another pirate ship or a Kraken. You can do a lot of the stage. You'd probably be changing one with the background changing as the ship sets sails and whatnot. Maybe you can even leave port or something like that. I think that you can do a lot of that. Next, we have a Star Wars planet. Okay, I know that's not specific, but I think I can do some creative here. Okay, now I'm going to reference Mario Kart really enough, but I'm sure you know that one Mario Kart track based off of Animal Crossing. How it changed based off the time of year. I don't want it to change based off the time of year for this game, but I think Star Wars Planet, where it would be the same platforms in the exact same position for each variant, but the backgrounds and the setting will be completely different, referencing another Star Wars planet. I think that way you can reference a lot without having to make actual multiple stages. I think that would be pretty clever for them to do. Or they could just pick one, maybe the desert planet or something like that. It can go either way. Next up, we have Monsters, Inc. Yeah, this makes sense for Pixar. Again, very popular and well-known place that you can do a lot. Maybe you can have doors coming in at the top, slamming people or get thrown up there. And with the scream cans, maybe you could hit one of those to have them flying somewhere out there. And again, it would have probably be in the facility, although in that giant door collection room, that would be pretty fun too. And you can even have references to maybe other Disney movies with the doors opening to kids' rooms, although that is a little debatable, as you wouldn't want the background to be too distracting. And with these stages, you can trust me, I'm pretty sure there would be a mode to turn off any objects or whatnot. You don't want another Mega Man stage. Alright, now, next stage we have the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, I know this doesn't make too much sense given how flying on a Millennium Falcon is a space vehicle, and you have to believe in space. I mean, Star Fox has had plenty of stages where you're on top of the spaceship, just in the middle of space, and still be able to breathe properly, so I think you can do it in Disney too. And I mean, in the Millennium Falcon is such a popular stage, I can totally see it as a stage. I mean, it's really an iconic vehicle that can totally work in a stage. I can definitely see a gimmick as it turns around and flips upside down as it flying so fast, and you have to move on the stage before you get thrown off because it's turning it on its side. I think that'll be pretty fun. And maybe you can even have other references to other starships as it's flying by, TIE fighters or something like that. You can do a lot of this. Next, we have the Death Star. Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, come on, it's the Death Star. This is probably the most popular location in Star Wars. And yeah, I think it should probably be in Palpatine's room. You can have a lot of places, like in that one trash room, and other places with stormtroopers, but I think Palpatine's room is iconic enough where it should be the main focus. You can even have Palpatine just sitting in the background watching you fight menacingly. And if he does come as an actual fighter in DLC, he can just not appear on the stage. That is a common thing that fighting games do, so it doesn't disqualify him from the roster or anything like that. And you definitely still have some stormtroopers coming out trying to fire, but they miss, because of course they do. Now, moving on to the next stage, we have a Guardians of the Galaxy stage. Now, whether this would be on the ship, flying in space, or just on the ground with the ship in the background, it can go either way, but I'm going to lean towards the ship, because although we already did that with the Millennium Falcon, I still think that work here, because it's the Guardians. They gotta have some appearance of stage, and I mean, come on, it would be very cool flying on that ship, going past other ships just in the battlefield. It would be pretty cool. Very recognizable. Again, Guardians being a very popular movie series that even in Phase 4 we still got some good movies. You gotta have some reference. Next stage is Avengers headquarters. Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, this is probably the most obvious pick for an Avengers stage, being the tower with the A in the background and just being with the Quinjet and whatnot. I mean, this just makes way too much sense. Maybe you can have some obscure Avengers referencing obscure characters, maybe Miss Marvel or Squirrel Girl in the background watching, something like that, Not anything like too big. Again, they could still get in the roster if we needed them to, but, still have some sort of reference. Now, next stage we have DuckTales. This would definitely be the money bin. Again, one reference all the majority of Disney, including the TV shows, because those are very popular, and I think the duck bin just works very well. I could definitely see it being in gold with maybe that gold shark. If you DuckTales fans will probably know what I'm talking about, but yeah, you could do a lot of this. I know that I said it would be Scrooge McDuck Super, but I think for a stage you can make it work still, because it's a very iconic place for Mickey. Now, moving on to the next stage, we have Spider-Man. I know that isn't clear, but let me explain. Basically, it'd be a stage in the city with the background being tons of buildings, but the main one has a big screen with Dave Jonah Davidson on it, telling everyone about the menace of Spider. And yeah, I think that'd be a pretty fun reference. Again, you could turn off any hazards if you want to be able to focus in the fight. If you're just doing the stage normally, you hear him talk about Spider-Man the Menace for the entire fight, and I think that can be pretty hilarious. Maybe if Spider-Man isn't picked or playing, have him swing by and shoot Dave's mouth or something like that as a joke, but still, you gotta have it as a stage. It makes too much sense. It'd be just too much fun to do. And that are all the stages. And I know that, again, I said only characters for DLC, but I think you can also have stages for DLC too, along with other things like maybe items or other modes. But yeah, I think for the main roster, it's a good selection of stages. It's a good starter, because again, this game, if it were to come out, the DLC would be very big. Now, time to go over one little detail that most people who make videos like this don't go over. I want to throw my own spin in this game that I think Disney were to make this, they might actually do. I'm talking about assist. Now, for assist, this wouldn't be like assist trophies, would be an item. Now, this would be something that you would pick next to the character section, and it would be assist that you can just cast someone to help you whenever you want. It would be this game's kind of gimmick in a way. And I think this would be a good way to reference a bunch of characters. Now, I rested a few, but I had done a lot of research for this roster, and I couldn't do any Marvel, Star Wars, or Pixar assists. They would definitely be there, but I just had to do Disney because there's always so much to do. So this is more just a taste of what this would be like. Just a list of Disney assists. First, cars. This wouldn't necessarily have to be Lightning McQueen, but you definitely have to have a car assist that just has a car zoom in and zoom out, be a very heavy attack that could be dodged or missed, but if it lands, it would be very beneficial. Next up, we have Wally. I wanted to include him in the game, I did, but I just couldn't really see him as a fighter. And Eve didn't necessarily have enough popularity with the movie being so old. So I think, yeah, an assist would work pretty well. I can see him going around the stage collecting garbage. If he accidentally picks you up, then he just throws you in him, crumbles you, and then spits you out. That sounds more morbid than meant to, but you know what I mean. Next up, we have one of those snowmen from Frozen. Not necessarily the big Goliath one. If you saw the Frozen sort, then you know the tiny little guys I'm talking about. I want an army of those guys just growing the stage, just a tsunami of tiny little snowmen just rolling, and basically Scrooge McDuck Super. Anyway, moving on, we have Lemmy. From Ratatouille and whatnot. Basically, he would just come in as a tiny little rat, and he would just go around the stage on the ground a few times, but if you would hit the opponent, then the opponent would start just randomly doing the exact things that the main player is doing, like they are controlling them, like Remy can do. And they can use this to basically just make the opponents jump off the map. It might be a little too overpowered, but I think it would be pretty funny with it. Next up, we have Vanellope. Now, for Vanellope, yeah, this one was kind of referencing the whole fact that she's a racer, and it was kind of similar to Lightning McQueen's, but I still think it was somewhat unique where she would glitch in and hit someone kind of randomly. She would appear at random places and hit people and whatnot. I think that's different enough, but still, she might not be an assist because of this. You can go either way, really. Next up, we have Peter Pan. Okay, I know some people would absolutely say he's gotta be a character, and he still can be, but I think he can have an assist where his shadow would pop up, and he would spray some pixie dust on the ground, and all the characters would just start floating in the air. And you can argue that wouldn't be as beneficial to the character who summoned the character. I get that, but I still think it would be fun enough to include it, just for the fact of being fun. Next character, we have Hades. And admittedly, I thought about putting him as a character, but I figured as an assist, it would probably fit better. I can see him just throwing out fireballs out of anger, and the more he misses, the more angry it gets, so the less you get hit, the more damage the attacks do, so you have to figure out if you want to get hit just for some small attacks, or if you want to dodge them and risk getting hit by a big one. Admittedly, I probably thought about this way too much, but I honestly thought it was a pretty fun idea. And you know Hercules is going to get a DLC pack, so yeah, definitely Hades. Next up, we have Big Hero 16. Now, I kind of vague about this, because I don't know exactly who I want from the team to be assist. It can be any one of the characters, but I also want some of the characters to be just kind of popping for Baymax's moves. So I think just any one of them could work. Maybe it would be two, maybe probably just one though. Whichever one though, they would just come in, do whatever power they have, and then just roll out basically. So I think it'll be pretty fun. Next character we have Dumbo. And yeah, as an assist, it's pretty self-explanatory. He would fly in, fly out, and I think he's a popular franchise that obviously won't be a character, but as an assist, he fits pretty well. Maybe you can ride him and control him, but I think just as an assist, just flying out and in with his big heels, I think that'd be funner. Either way though, that's all the assists. Obviously, Star Wars, Marvel, they would obviously get assists too, but I just don't have the time to write them all right now. And just thank you all for watching again. I really do appreciate all the support you did for my last Disney fighting game video. I really do. I'm thankful the fact that I have any audience, let alone as much as you guys gave me. So thank you for that. I very much appreciate it. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe. I don't usually say this often, but I figured for such a special occasion, you know, I might as well throw it in there. Trust me, I won't do this all the time though. And looking forward to tons of other What If games and movies that I'm going to do in the future. I got a lot of plans for those. Farewell, adios, and get out.